Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Problem Solver Politics live stream. We're wrapping up this week great. It's lovely Friday, June 19th. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, this pair of blue scissors that I didn't notice until just right now. Awesome. We're starting this thing out right. Anyway, Cody, tell us, my friend, what is going on?
Okay, well, I guess there's a couple things I kind of thought would be fun to talk about today. First thing I wanted to bring up, which there is still like an election happening and there is still election politics.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but interestingly enough, Amy, I just been following the Amy Klobuchar saga for so long now, finally seeing it end. I thought it was worth noting. So that Amy Klobuchar has officially dropped out of Biden's VP search and backs picking a woman of color. And a lot of people have echoed that, but then we're going to take a look. ESPN. They're ridiculous. It's CNN, yeah. But I mean, yeah, basically, it's their power rankings. It's the CNN power rankings. However confusing with ESPN of Biden VP candidates, and you'll notice a lot of people are saying it should be women of color. So we're going to look at who that is. It's going to narrow a lot of people down. And spoilers, Kamala Harris is it. And you go through every single person, and it's just like honestly, he's going to have to pick someone unknown because you can go through anyone and be like, well, Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris, the prosecutor stuff, right? And then the next person, I think. Looking at the mayor of Atlanta, it's like, yeah, but what about this or that? There's always going to be something, going on for every single person now, it seems like. I've heard arguments against every candidate. So it's funny. Who actually will functionally make it? And as they keep narrowing the criteria and then functionally cutting candidates down to knees as well, who's going to be left standing? Will it eventually just be like, whatever, Kamala Harris?
It will be Kamala, won't it?
I mean, maybe, but
because it's going to have to be. I'd said this eons ago. Like California hates her.
Wouldn't it make any sense?
No, it wouldn't make any sense. But
thank you.
We're in a post-fact world.
But not even that. Does it make any sense for even when you take the climate, so to speak, for Kamala Harris? Let's go through the news today. I just think it's funny that Klobuchar didn't get the VP nod. Amy Klobuchar once again ran for president. She announced she was suspending her campaign and endorsing Joe Biden on Joe Biden's rally stage. She was angling for this VP spot.
But can I tell you why I think it will be Kamala Harris? Because you always talk about these politicians. And I got to say, Democrats want to win. They know they already got California in the bag. So it doesn't matter if she's popular in California or not. Okay. And
hold on.
She has proven.
We'll get to Kamala in a second.
Okay, hold on. But she has proven to be willing to lick her finger and stick it in the wind and just make whatever decision in that moment is necessary to win. They want that. I think it'll be her.
But Amy Klobuchar dropped out of the race on the debate stage. Stacey Abrams basically begged, like, please, Joe Biden, make me your VP. I'll do anything. I mean, like, a lot of people have been angling for this.
But she's not shrewd like Kamala.
My point being is a lot of people are willing to say you're doing the VP. Especially with Biden, who said, I might last a year or two. It's important, right?
Yeah.
So I want to go through the article a little bit and talk about this. So Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota announced late Thursday that she was withdrawing from consideration to be the running mate to former VP Joe Biden on the Democratic ticket. Mrs. Klobuchar, who mounted her own campaign for the presidency before dropping out and becoming one of Mr. Biden's most spirited surrogates, one way of putting it, said during an MSNBC interview that she called Mr. Biden on Wednesday night and told him she would choose a woman of color to be his running mate. And told him he should, not she would. Sorry, he should. Thank you, Ms. Klobuchar, who probably wasn't going to be the VP anyway. It's very nice for your input on who should or shouldn't be the VP. Somebody also goes, Ms. Klobuchar, a moderate and veteran of the Senate like Mr. Biden, was known to have a strong rapport with the presumptive Democratic nominee and was an early favorite of the significant number of his donors and supporters. I like how donors comes before supporters. So I go through the articles. They reveal a lot in the... It was a significant number of donors like Amy Klobuchar and then supporters too. You throw them in there.
Donors like her. Watch out.
But her case of being Mr. Biden's running mate was badly damaged after the Memorial Day killing of George Floyd in the custody of Minneapolis police officers. The death, which has prompted weeks of demonstrations and protests against police violence across the country, led to renewed scrutiny of Ms. Klobuchar's career as a local prosecutor in Minneapolis. I want to show you how ridiculous the timeline is on this. Do I have this pulled up? Here we go. Please don't have the article up. This is a report that came out of the Star Tribune, dated May 22nd. Report: Amy Klobuchar
officially being vetted as Joe Biden's running mate.
Yeah, the music was sneaking through for some reason. I don't know why. I apologize. Sorry, just check out the date. It's May 22nd, 2020, right? For those of you who might recognize the date, it's because they referenced the death of George Floyd. George Floyd was killed May 25th, 2020. 3 days after. So, I mean, I've kind of known since then, because then, as they mentioned, it brought up Amy Klobuchar's past, and she did something she probably shouldn't have done and admitted, we weren't prosecuting cases right when I was prosecuting people there. I should have done something about that, which is, so maybe you shouldn't be VP then, which is what happened to her. The timeline was kind of stunning. I mean, like 3 days after she was, they mentioned her, Senator Amy Klobuchar, long seen as a possible running mate for former VP Joe Biden, was reportedly getting official consideration. It's according to a tweet Thursday from a CBS News campaign reporter. And there's a couple articles here at the time mentioning how they're moving into the deeper vetting process. They describe some weird stuff. Maybe it's not that weird. People like, Amy and her husband are going to move to a separate house and live with the people that vet him for months. But then again, you see 3 days later, this happened, and they mention it brought up renewed attention and scrutiny of Klobuchar's record as prosecutor, which didn't go well. I would say it does. It's an interesting angle to one more thing I want to get into. So I just want to get through the news first, then we can talk back and forth about kind of what was going on here. They do mention, though, to my point, on Friday, Ms. Klobuchar said, I believe this was Friday, going back to May 29th. Again, isn't it crazy? 7 days after they announced she's running as VP, this article comes out. Which, like I say, part of the increased scrutiny or the increased vetting, right? Is you get articles like this. But she says right here, I think that was wrong now. She said in an interview at MSNBC, I think it would have been much better if I took responsibility and looked at the cases and made the decisions myself in reference to grand juries that were being used in every jurisdiction across our state. And she now regrets those decisions. So, that might knock you out of the running. I just thought it was funny that she calls Joe Biden and says, hey, if you want my advice, Joe, maybe pick it. It's like, maybe you probably weren't in the running anymore. So maybe this announcement that you've officially withdrawn is just kind of a good politics. Step in front of it. Wasn't fired, I quit.
Yeah.
Anyway, this brings to, again, the CNN or the ESPN power rankings on who should be Joe Biden's VP. So we're going to go through this. We're going to go through the top 10. And there's a couple I just don't know that well. Right? Maybe they can make all the narrow criteria, right? Let's start off. If, let's say it takes Amy Klobuchar's recommendation, woman of color. So no Gretchen Whitmer. So 9 doesn't matter. 8 doesn't matter. 10 doesn't matter. Top 3, those will be out. Tammy Duckworth. I have legitimately heard Tammy Duckworth brought up as a name before. As I mentioned here, there is no woman on the list with a more compelling personal story than Duckworth. She won a Purple Heart in Iraq after the helicopter she was piloting was shot down. The crash cost her both her legs. She was elected to the House in 2012.
We talked about her before.
Yeah, the first disabled woman veteran to be elected to Congress and the first member of Congress born in Thailand. Interesting. 2016, she was elected to the Senate, and 2 years later became the first sitting senator to give birth. That's a lot of firsts and a hell of a resume. I would say, they talked a lot about first and not a whole lot about resume, unfortunately. But I definitely think that.
Cody.
So there we go. That'd be one of the first people that would meet the kind of criteria. Susan Rice, definitely never heard before. We know, thanks to the New York Times, that Rice is being actively by the Biden team. That's actually what it says. I'm being stupid, which makes perfect sense. Biden has said on a number of occasions that he believes experience and the ability to step in as president are the most important qualities in a VP. Well, Rice more than clears that hurdle, having served as national security advisor and ambassador to the UN for former President Barack Obama. However, I understand it's a bit of an oxymoron because Biden's close to Obama. I understand this.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was listening to Brett Weinstein. I believe it was Brett Weinstein and Joe Rogan. One of the Weinstein brothers.
Yeah, it was Brett Weinstein.
And he said something pretty interesting, which I've always agreed with. And he said, I like Barack Obama, charismatic guy. I've always believed in him. But you look at his administration, and it wasn't ran that much different than George Bush's, especially when it came to foreign policy. So we'll see what Susan Rice's. That's why, personally, I think being involved in national security stuff for Obama, people bristle at it, but the great Satan does what it does. Doesn't matter who's the president. So you're kind of if you're in that part of the country, it's going to rub off.
So you're still sold on the great Satan idea, huh?
The American military, we don't get to vote on what these people do. A lot of them are unelected bureaucrats running various weird branches doing weird stuff.
So the John Bolton thing doesn't do it for you?
Anyway, Elizabeth Warren? Is she, we've decided, right, not woman of color, right? Elizabeth Warren. She'd live limited. Val Demings. I've heard Val Demings. I haven't heard a lot, though. Demings' unique background, she was the chief of police in Orlando before coming to Congress. I feel like right there, that's probably going to be a big strike against you right now. Same thing I'm going to hold against, not I, but I feel like Kamala Harris, people calling out, she was a prosecutor. I guarantee you, when she was chief of police in Orlando police arrested people.
Yeah.
And they probably beat people and did something just because
it's going to be too easy
inevitable.
to get old police scanner
maybe she handled
calls
it,
and yeah.
Maybe she handled it very well. She's also been in Congress though, and has been central to a rapid rise in the House. She was one of the handful of House members who argued the impeachment of Trump before the Senate. So they've been
interesting.
I don't know if grooming is the word, but she's definitely been getting into positions to do stuff that they moving her. So I don't know though. I feel like just nowadays, if they're gonna scrutinize the VPs this hard, if I'm gonna be honest, do you know what I knew about Tim Kaine and Mike Pence before they were announced as VPs?
What?
I could not tell them apart probably until after the election. I've never said. There's obviously these games, right? But I mean, for Biden's VP, it's like what was the game where you knock the faces down to try to guess who it is? And you have to keep guessing features.
Come on,
it's got to a point where it's like
guess who?
Yeah, guess who? Or he's just like, wow, I got like how many people are left? It's one of the weird things. I don't get why you would limit it because here's the thing. Let's say at the end of the day, we'll go through the last few. Michelle Lujan Grisham, for all the focus on Biden picking an African-American woman as VP nominee, don't lose how powerful, symbolically and politically, it would be for the presumptive Democratic nominee. I love when they mention that. Symbolically and politically. Like, don't lose out of the politics here. For the presumptive Democratic nominee to make history with the first Latina on a national ticket. If the Southwest is seen as a central battleground this November, pumping up Hispanic turnout could be crucial for Biden. This is one thing that drives me crazy. Is that the most callous way of talking about people ever? Like, well, symbolically and politically, she's Latina, so then you'll get these voters in the Southwest. Of course, they'll just come out and vote for her because they're Hispanic. It's like, what a weird way to talk. But I don't people talk about this stuff.
The soft bigotry of low expectations, right there.
I don't even think I don't think that's the right way of putting it. It's just very prejudicial. I don't know if racist is the word. It's very stereotypical to just say, well, if there's one Hispanic, every Hispanic will vote for him, right? It's like, I don't know, man. They have free will and minds. They're real people. They're not just this group called Hispanics. Anyway, though. MLG also. Right now, MLG is a nickname. Bumps are number one on my list. Dude, this is literally ESPN. They have the previous power ranking number here. It's what they do on ESPN and MLB Network and NFL Network. But they mentioned that, they gave her rave reviews for her handling of COVID-19 in her state. Interesting. Then we get to the last two. Very interesting here. So, Miss Keisha Lance Bottoms, I probably always get her name wrong. With every passing week of late, the gap between Harris and Bottoms narrows. I'm reading an ESPN article now. This is not CNN.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is fantasy football at this point.
At this point, the Atlanta mayor is both Biden's most effective and most ever-present TV surrogate. That is one thing I will say for sure. I have seen her go up there and give press conferences where I got nothing out of it other than, a little bit of a campaign speech for Biden. I'm like, okay, what'd you say there aside from, we agree with Biden and what he says? She's definitely pushing for it. She's on cable TV virtually every night. Again, I like how CNN, when they get to ESPN mode, just reveal the kind of callous baseness of politics.
Yeah.
Hey, she used to go on TV every night and make her case for being Biden's VP. I'm sure the people of Atlanta love to hear that. Hey, Atlanta, is your mayor going on TV making a case for how they're going to help Atlanta? They're really making a case for how they should be Biden's VP. I love it. I'm going to move to Atlanta tomorrow so Biden's VP could pitch her case in my city. It's funny how when they get to this ESPN style talk, they just reveal this stuff and she's Hispanic, maybe the numbers will work. What the hell kind of nonsense is that? They also mentioned she makes Republicans mad. Well, there we go. She's on TV every day campaigning and makes. I'm sure that's why she represents the people of Atlanta very well. And then we get to Kamala Harris. We get the cop Mala. I wish I had it pulled up. I'll pull it up in a second. Post it in chat if you have it. The takedown of Kamala Harris that Tulsi Gabbard gave on the debate stage.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris, there's videos of Kamala Harris laughing about throwing people in jail for petty nonsense. I don't know why she's currently the number one, but I'll read it. If Harris doesn't get picked and she still is the favorite to be the choice, it'll be because of concerns about her record as Attorney General of California. You think. This week also featured a bit of awkwardness as Harris was asked by Stephen Colbert about her attacks on Biden's records on busing, the only high point of her campaign, I'll mind you. It was a debate, she responded. Exactly. You just say things. Who cares? They don't matter. It's the whole reason, literally, it was the debate. It's called a debate. Exactly. You just say things. They don't matter. Yeah, I called Biden basically a racist for what he said about busing, but it was a debate. You just say things. They don't matter. So there we go.
That would be the height of irony. You could literally just make an opposition commercial by just playing Tulsi Gabbard's takedown and then Kamala Harris's takedown of Joe Biden. I don't they disqualified themselves. It's like, you know how Quentin Tarantino used to always, like, I think it was called the Mexican standoff, where A is pointing at B, B is pointing at C, and C is pointing at A. And that's the classic, I think in cinema, it's called the Mexican standoff. That's literally all you would need. You would need Kamala dousing Biden. All right. Biden quoting something about how, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I mixed this up already. You would just need, Tulsi Gabbard trashing on Kamala, and then Kamala trashing on Joe Biden. And by the time people got to the third person, the Mexican standoffs won. You know what I'm saying? That just seems like, actually, this brings up a really good question, Cody. Is there anybody that you don't see as easily dunk-onable? Because if you've got the ex-chief of police, nowadays, hey, you can't be chanting defund the police and then hiring a chief of police as your VP. Okay.
Well, hold on. I want to show you a funny, but I want to show you.
It seems like all of these people could be dunked on so easily.
Okay, but I want to show you a funny. I thought this was pretty humorous.
Okay.
Now I'm sure I don't have that pulled up, but I think I have something else pulled up instead. Let me see if I have it for you. Here we go. The Mayor Muriel Bowser. She is the mayor, I believe, of Washington D.C. And she posted today that, as mentioned to Whoopi Goldberg today in The View, on Juneteenth, we delivered to Dr. Crew in the NMAHC a piece of history, that being Black Lives Matter Plaza signs. I believe she officially put that sign up declaring the street Black Lives Matter Plaza, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
Mayor Muriel Bowser. Now, you would probably, if you were to listen to the prevailing narrative on defund the police, you would think she would, I don't know if she wants to abolish the police, right? But reform defunding. I love this. This is a snippet of an interview she did. And this is D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser not at all reconsidering police funding. So let's go through what this sounds like. Same woman here. So we'll go to the interview. And they say, Black Lives Matter activists have added some words. They're speaking of Black Lives Matter Plaza. She wrote Black Lives Matter on the street.
Yeah.
And those words are to fund the police. In the same bright yellow paint, what do you say to them? This is Miss Bowser. Well, we know the job of the activists is to call their issues to elected officials, and our local chapter is no different. And we know, certainly, I do, what our public safety needs are in Washington, D.C., and they're not just policing. They include all of our opportunities to equalize opportunity and all of our non-law enforcement initiatives that are meant to interrupt violence. And the interviewer says, understood, but on the specific demand to defund the police, what is your response? Like, can you answer my question, please? We fund the police at the level we need it funded. And my city council has my current budget proposal in front of them to give every neighborhood in Washington, D.C. the police support that they need. And so my budget doesn't fund it a penny more than we need, and certainly not a penny less, right? The interviewer then says, but the budget you put out last month, in fact, calls for increasing the funding of the police.
Yeah.
Are you reconsidering your position in any way? Not at all. What our budget proposal, and I can't speak for other departments, but they fund the people that we need. And certainly we wouldn't want the people on our forces not to have the proper training or equipment that makes it better community policing. And I think you also have to look at the context of our entire budget. I've been mayor for 5 years. We've seen police spending increase 12% in those 5 years. At the same time, our population has increased and our calls for service have increased. If you look at our safety net programs, they have increased 75%, and I'm talking specifically about human services and homeless services. Anyway, though, I wanted to read the whole interview because it's interesting, but here we have the woman who, there she is presiding over Black Lives Matter Plaza, and like I said, I'm not just making this up. They literally wrote defund the police in the street. In the same paint that they mentioned, the same message, not the same message, but the same general area. So they asked the mayor, so you stand for one or you stand for the other, and I just love this. First of all, they have to ask her the question 3 times because, like, well, what do you think about defunding the police? She's like, well, activists, they have to say that. Like, but what do you think about it? She's like, well, we fund them. And like, yeah, but you keep increasing the funding. Are you going to reconsider? Not at all. No, I'm going to not reconsider my position. So the reason why this is, by the way, and you mentioned it before, it's my favorite style of politics, which is, like I said, you lick your finger and stick it in the air and see where the wind's blowing. And that's how you make your mind up. But this is a compilation done by 538. Again, you could argue a biased source, probably not biased in the way you'd imagine with the results, on how Americans feel about defunding the police. And they compile 4 different polls conducted between June 9th and June 16th from Reuters, ABS News, Morning Consult, and The Economist. So most Americans balk at defunding the police. Recent polls asking people whether they support or oppose the defund the police movement or defunding police departments. And you'll notice the highest amount of support you found was in June 9th. And actually, what I would say is more telling, and which they leave off a little bit, as time has progressed, support has dwindled, which is, yes, as the intensity of the moment passes and it's less fervent, the support has dwindled, drops to, in the latest Economist YouGov, 24% supposing with 53. Now, you'll notice the oppose has not necessarily increased. It's just support has decreased. It's the biggest thing we've noticed here. But, yes, politicians read these results, and they say, you know what? It's favorable to say Black Lives Matter, but not favorable to literally defund my police department, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to increase the spending and basically shove off. I'm going to make you ask me the question 4 times and then just say, I don't care. I'm raising the funding if I need to. I love that line. We fund them at the level we need. Basically, like, get out of here. I'm not going to explain myself to you. But again, this isn't rural Texas's crazy sheriff. I mean, this is the mayor of Washington, D.C. I mean, the woman who just proudly handed the Black Lives Matter Plaza sign that she signed off to an activist group. Like, I just want to kind of put into perspective what it actually is there. I think for voting, it'd be ironic, but I'm kind of arguing against myself here. But yeah, maybe Kamala would just get through anyway. They know voters. So. They know voters when they're like, hey, you know what? Kamala's fine. I think she's unlikable in other ways, though.
Well, first off, she's attractive. That helps in politics. Second off, she's articulate. She gives fiery speeches. Third off, the American public is stupid and forgets things. I mean, they've probably already forgotten that she was Kamala the cop. They've already forgotten that she did the takedown of Biden. They've already forgotten Tulsi Gabbard dressed as an angelic messenger, bestowing the virtuous message of Kamala's treacherous past on the public. They've already completely forgotten that. So I actually think Kamala is the best poised to. I think she is. She's ferocious. And instinctually, these people are going to be like, yeah, she's a winner. She got to fight. Stacey Abrams was a complainer. Okay, but Kamala Harris is an attack dog.
Stacey Abrams, you can put her aside. She's
a hot attack dog.
Kamala Harris backed down a lot in multiple debates. She was just kind of like,
oh no, but dude, man, she comes at you on Twitter. She comes out.
Oh wow, Twitter. Oh,
all the psycho activists in California want her.
See, no, I think you are in your brain.
Hey, I called the Katie Hill thing and I said she was going to win because she had the psycho activists. Kamala Harris has those same psycho activists.
Doesn't. Progressive activists don't like Kamala Harris because she was a prosecutor, threw people in jail for baloney.
They're going to forget all that by November.
No, but remember, I'll pull the article
up. And Kamala will be preaching from the rooftops Black Lives Matter to such a degree.
Of Politico talking about the House, Senate, or the Senate Democrats basically laughing at the progressives trying to primary them and dunking on them because they keep winning. And they said, you're not going to get Medicare for all. You're not going to get your Green New Deal because all you guys lose. Like, that's the current mood from the establishment right now. They definitely feel like they're in control here. So I think the same progressives will be upset because, dude, progressives is a funny way of putting it. If you just look at what Kamala Harris did when she was in charge, you should be upset. But you know what, man? I mean, I don't say he's talked himself into a corner, but I mean, like, Joe Biden's legitimately limited his options. And I guess when you look at within the parameters, she probably is the best option now. Even though she probably was the front runner from the minute she dropped out for being the VP, I believe people weren't saying that. It's just interesting, but I think it's funny here just to really quickly touch again on, because I think highlighting something I keep trying to highlight because I keep seeing it happen is progressive. Honestly, sorry progressives, you're getting beat out by the new activists. We don't have a name for them yet, but there's a new activist movement. Beat out you progressives.
What's the new activist movement?
I don't know, but people taking to the streets aren't the same progressives that were tweeting snake emojis Elizabeth Warren a few months ago.
Yeah, okay.
There's a different, group emerging, but my point being is there's always this. There's always the Twitter movement. There's always the social, and then they run into the reality. And let's go through this. Politico. By the way, Politico is becoming the establishment Dem mouthpiece, basically just slapping down anything that goes against what they want. But they say defund.
They're better than CNN now, dude.
Oh, no, but CNN has no principles. I think Politico has one principle. Defend. They always have no principle either, but it's like defend the establishment, protect this out. Defund the police faces skepticism, even in deeply liberal cities. City budget fights pit activists against Democratic politicians. They mention here, many of the cities with the highest number of law enforcement per capita on the payroll are urban areas with progressive mayors, including many women and people of color. And Democratic majorities on the city council, that mean local leaders in cities like Washington, New York, and Atlanta have the power to limit funding for some of the nation's largest police forces and reallocate that money for programs to shrink the wealth gap and provide stable housing, access to jobs, and healthcare. But even in those liberal bastions, the movement is running into resistance. These are very blue places that we're still seeing the kind of dynamic with police spending skyrocketing and cuts to community resources and community-led programs, said Kumar Rao, Director of Justice Transformation at the Center for Popular Democracy, a liberal, Brooklyn-based advocacy group. Woof. Probably could just explain what it was later. Anyway, it's a political issue on one level, but it's actually very much a bipartisan problem. Which the establishment is not going to defund their attack dogs.
Yeah.
The police are the people that go out there and enforce the rules the government makes for you. They're not going to get rid of them. That's like legitimately.
Unless it was to get votes, at which point they would immediately reinstate the police.
Yeah, because think about it. If I'm a legislator, I can make any bill of law I want. If no one with a gun goes to your house to enforce it, it doesn't matter. I can't make you close your business down if no one comes to arrest you.
Yeah.
Someone's got to go arrest people for the government to function properly. So they'll never. It's hilarious. Like, I mean, I love the defiance of the mayor in D.C. Just, I'm not reconsidering it, and we're going to fund them as much as they need. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think now also the progressives are starting to get a little bit of a dose of what happens. I mean, it's like, I really think the progressives just need to start their own party. Because they keep latching onto the Democrat Party, hoping that they'll be able to push it more to the left and move the Overton window. And all they do is kind of like bungee snap back. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we'll let you go riot for us and talk crap about Republicans, but no, we're not going to defund the police. And oh yeah, we'll let you talk about UBI and try and push for universal basic income, but no, we're going to bail out the corporations when the pandemic comes. You know, it's like they're these mules that the DNC just flails and goes, mush, progressives, mush, do our bidding. And then once the progressives do all of the footwork, the DNC just walks in and then foots the bill for the big corporations. Like, I honestly, I feel bad for progressives. I feel bad for progressives at this point because what have they gotten of what they wanted?
Well, I mean, there's the mass,
Okay, a bunch of corporations are donated to a bunch of wealthy people who have set up foundations under the auspices of Black Lives Matter, but not a single poor, below the poverty line African American is going to be helped by any of the millions that Amazon is dumping into PR campaigns with all of the blackouts and with all of this. If you're a black guy in downtown anywhere that's been run by a Democrat for 50 years, you have no better chance of starting your business and feeding your family today than you did 3 weeks ago.
But it's greater than that. Like, it's just let's say they want to help taxi cab drive. It doesn't matter. They're just gonna crush the taxi industry and bury that. Whoever they say they're coming to help. I mean, wasn't it the classic JFK line? It's nothing worse than someone saying, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." But yeah, like,
no, it wasn't JFK. That was Ronald.
Oh, it was Reagan. Whatever.
The great one.
Someone is unfortunately no longer with us, both of them. But but no. But the point being is, like, you can almost tell who the government's getting ready to screw over. It's like, how do you think people feel in various countries in the Middle East when they find out America's gonna come help them out? Like, I don't think they're very happy. And yeah, like they lie about. And I think when you get, I don't know, I don't want to get too focused on every single individual. It's the same thing every time. We're going to pass X to help Y. Someone mentioned something. Actually, thanks for bringing it up. Michael Alexander said, look up California Prop 209. Yeah, I've been looking into this, and I've seen people discussing it. And apparently, California Prop 209, functionally, the way I understand it is this. For California to implement affirmative action on the scale they want to, they're going to have to re-implement discrimination in hiring. Because without re-implementing discrimination in hiring, they won't be able to, control things through affirmative action as well. So this is an opinion piece from Daily Californian. I'm going to read through it. This is the case for it. I want to read the case for it because I've read a lot of cases against it. Let's see what people are actually saying for why. But sorry, one second.
So basically, there used to be a law that controlled the ability for employers to discriminate based upon race. So they said you can't discriminate based upon race. Supposedly meant to protect minorities from those evil white guys.
No, hold on.
And then now they want to do affirmative action so badly that they want to be able to discriminate against the white people, so they have to be able to get rid of the old civil rights law. Is that how it goes?
Well, no, it doesn't matter what race of people. It's just in order to, like, I'll read through it. I'll read you their case. But like I said, if you get lost in like this race, X race, it doesn't matter, man. The idea is we need to discriminate. You can't decide who gets one job, who gets what job in what group and what numbers without discrimination. You can't do it. You can call it favoring or helping. It's like if you favor into one direction, you're
so we're legalizing discrimination in employment now.
I want to go through their case. So California should pass ACA 5 and end Prop 209. So California justice is blind, but since passing Proposition 209, California has seen more than its share of injustice. On June 10th, the California State Assembly passed ACA 5, a bill repealing Prop 209, ending race-blind admissions to permit affirmative action. So exactly, like I said, ending race-blind admissions. So the idea of admitting, and I believe they extend this to hiring by the state, they're no longer allowed to not count race. There has to be some discrimination based on race now.
They're repealing. I remember this when I was in high school. Actually, no, I'm sorry.
In
I
1996,
misspoke.
Prop 209 enjoyed overwhelming support from the UC
Yeah,
regions,
this happened my freshman year of high school.
California Regents and the Daily Californian. Their own publication supported this thing 30 years ago. Proponents framed race-neutral evaluations in government and higher education as a civil rights victory. I would agree. Anyway, in the quarter-century sense, however, Prop 209 has done nothing to level the playing field. Which is, okay, between 1997 and 1998, UC Berkeley's proportion of black students fell by half and is yet to recover. The proportion of Latinx students fell similarly, and though Latinx students now compose a majority of California's graduating high school seniors, they constitute less than 16% of UC Berkeley's undergraduates, recruiting marginalized students has only mitigated universities' gapping racial disparities, not erased them. Oh, they do mention it. I was going to wonder if they're just going to pretend Asian people didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like I said,
they're good at that.
It's nothing about if you are trying to make the perfect racial system, right, and distribute the races evenly. Like, imagine you're a kid with toys. You want to put them in the proper order.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what color the toys are. If the Asians are the one getting in the way, you will sue the state to be able to discriminate against Asians. By the way, multiple schools have done it and they've won.
Yeah.
Because they're saying they're getting in the way of what we're trying to do. They're driving down these two groups. They must be removed. Not because they're Asian and we hate them, but because they're ruining what we're trying to do. I mean, no offense, but the language in this is kind of bizarre. You notice I don't even use many of these words in my normal descriptions. I'm not used to this, but like I would go back and I would argue that it is a civil rights victory to have race-neutral evaluations in government. That sounds like a victory for civil rights. That they no longer can discriminate about you guys and your race. And there's the thing, like, there's two forms of discrimination. One is letting one race use the nice couch and everyone else has to sit on the floor. You could say, well, everyone sits on the floor, but exactly, you're discriminating against everybody but the group you're giving preferential treatment to. Yeah. Or you can discriminate the other, but just holding people down. But yet, one way of doing it is, and they're doing it against Asians in schools, which we've known about. They've sued for the right to do this. They've fought for the right to. Yeah. You got to fight for your right to discriminate against Asians in California, and they've done it. But they mentioned that some affirmative action opponents note the strong presence of Asian students on UC campuses and argue that race-conscious admissions would displace Asian students for less qualified applicants. Asian American groups have brought prominent discrimination lawsuits against private universities, and many cite the UC system as a welcome exception from anti-Asian bias. Because ACA 5 would permit considerations of ethnicity and race, however, the UC system could distinguish among different groups. Currently, Asian students are overrepresented partly because Asian Americans are typically more affluent and educated, reflecting historical immigration policy. But by rejecting the notion of an Asian American monolith, the UC system could improve representation of Southeast Asians and other less affluent, marginalized Asian communities. Like I said, it's not even Asian. It's like we have to discriminate against, I'm assuming, Chinese, Koreans, Japanese, and maybe a couple of Southeast Asian countries have been pretty wealthy for a while. But like I said, they're even getting into it. It doesn't matter. Like you can call them racist, but to them, like, we need all these people organized properly, and they're out of line. How do we organize them properly? Well, we have to break up Asians. You can't just say Asian. Well, I agree. Somebody living in the northwestern part of India and someone living in Southeast Asia, I don't think you could say you're like the same. I would disagree at that point, right? But
it also makes you think that if you're having to do all of this thinking about it, maybe it's just a wrong policy.
Well, no, what I'm saying is I agree. I agree.
Like, for example,
I agree that race-neutral hiring by states should be
when I went to high school, our drum major, he was the older brother. So their family was Japanese. So he was the older brother of a girl in my math class, and he was the drum major of the award-winning band at our school. Okay, very prestigious thing to be in high school. He got a 1600 on the SAT, Cody. A 1600. And he was an honors and AP student that had like a 4.4 weighted GPA, and UCLA turned him down. Like, if we are breeding citizens that are getting from prestigious high schools, the number one rated high school with the most AP and honors classes in the entire district of the best school district in North LA County, if he's getting above a 4.0 weighted GPA, getting a 1600 on the SAT, and pulling extracurriculars to the tune of being the drum major. This man is a shoo-in in any educational institution who has sacrificed his entire life, social activities, economic activities, and all kinds of other activities in order to prepare himself for a good college career. Culturally, his family's expected it of him, and he's made sacrifices, and personally, he's put the work in. And just because of his skin color and his ethnicity of being Asian, UCLA says no. That doesn't sound wretchedly wrong to you? And what everybody was complaining about in the Jim Crow South?
I'm trying to read to you the argument, because you could just say they're stupid and shouldn't do it. I mean, I agree. I don't think Asians should be discriminated against. But I'm trying to read. This is the case. There's only a couple paragraphs left. That's why I want to get the last two paragraphs. So they mentioned that, above all, critics of affirmative action disparage such considerations as racial quotas, with employers and universities seeking only to check boxes. Yeah, as we saw in the ESPN CNN article before, the callous way they'll talk about people, just give them a Latino, they'll vote for it. They don't care. It's like, wow, man, it's kind of disparaging way of talking about people.
Yeah.
But they also mentioned that race-conscious admissions mainly reflect a simple truth. The effect of race on opportunity and adversity is profound, and our government and universities would be remiss to overlook that. Public universities' foremost duty is to educate the communities they serve, and distorted student populations belie that aim, preventing education from truly serving as the great equalizer. Race-blind admissions suggest that even though students, teachers, counselors, employers, coaches, doctors, peers, and friends will see their race, their college should not. In reality, race offers context for an applicant, adding nuance to each candidacy without reducing students to their skin color. I don't see how that's possible.
Dude, you can't tell me.
That sounds like a massive contradiction.
Oh, you can't tell me they're giving nuance to the evil anti-intersectional white guys.
Well, not even that. Like I said, stop the persecution complex. Just work back the logic.
No, it's not a persecution complex. It's obvious that there's an intent behind this.
It is. Let's just read the sentence. So if race offers context and adds nuance, but they don't reduce students to their skin color, what happens if, aside from the context offered by the race, they're equal applicants? At that point, are we not reducing them to their skin color to tiebreak? If, again, the context and nuance come... So,
I don't see how... It's never going to be all things considered equal.
Like, both are, captains of the football team, same test scores, and you say, well, that's tough. That
almost literally never happens. Because even in sports, when you have a tiebreaker, what do? You go look at their finer records and see, this team was 16-7, this team was 17-5. So even though in the tiebreaker... They both won. There is a champion.
Tiebreaker aside,
you don't need to go to race.
What I'm saying is, it's just interestingly in their own. All I'm trying to say is this. I'm trying to say this. The actual argument they're presenting makes no sense to me, because they're saying we're not going to boil people down to the race, but it's going to add the context and nuance, which, like you said.
Yeah.
There's two different types of 8-8 teams. The context and nuance comes from the other stuff, so you're boiling them down to the I don't know.
This is antithetical to every 1990s liberal Democrat principle
this
out
same
there.
Publication mentions that in 1996 they hailed this as a victory.
Yeah,
they said
this
that today,
is antithetical.
Just the last paragraph, and then just last thing. Today, ACA 5 has unanimous support from UC Regents, and voters deserve a chance to repeal a race-blind system that was tried and has failed. That's their point.
Because maybe it's not government's job to fix all of these social issues.
Failed at what either? Failed at what too? Did it sounds to me like they're upset that it didn't fail at creating race-blind admission. They're upset that what race-blind admission achieved was not what they wanted. And they just say the last thing they
maybe
mention
it proved that central
feel
planning doesn't fix it.
They feel it is high time for deeply race-related injustices to receive race-conscious solutions. I heard Justin Trudeau refer to there's I believe one Sikh member of like part of their government. I don't know a lot about the government in Canada, and he referred to them as the only racialized member of parliament. I like the word racialized, and it meant to like, and I'm like, that sounds racist, man. Like, that sounds like you look at this man and say he is not white, and that's basically his assessment of the man. So, I think weird, I don't know if racist, but weird, prejudicial, progressive white people that want things to be a certain way so bad, they don't care if it means we have to split Asians up to 5 groups to discriminate against the right Asians. They'll do it. And that's the case for it. I'm just reading you the case because the argument against it sounds pretty sound, that this was a civil rights victory in 96 and now it's being repealed.
Okay, so got a couple of comments here. Trevor Topsick says people are racist towards Asians. That's partially why Yang didn't win. I disagree. Yang needed to learn to speak up.
You literally just argued that people are racist against Asians in colleges and admissions.
Oh, white liberal progressives, yeah. But I'm saying...
Who votes for Democratic president?
Okay, you're right. You're right. Let me walk that back. I don't think the predominant reason was that. I think what'd you just say?
No, I agree.
I agree. It was just funny.
Yeah, it was just funny the way you like phrased it.
So I mean, because to say that people aren't racist means that even if there's one racist in North America that really can't stand the thought of an Asian president, you can no longer completely rule it out statistically. Okay, so let me draw that back, and I'll say, you know what, Trevor Topsick, I don't think that was his problem. I think he had a personality that is great for charitable work and very intelligent, but he wasn't able to cut through the melee that the seasoned political people were able to do during the debates, and he killed it on the internet and had a great, awesome following in that regard. But there was just some other shortcomings that he couldn't quite get over that led to. I'm surprised he got as far as he did, because the DNC was absolutely against him. He had no connections in the media, and they ignored him for the first year of his candidacy. And it wasn't until the Yang Gang itself started hollering and making so much noise that they were forced to notice him. And then they realized, oh, this guy's actually not that bad. I also think his war on the media should have been more extended, and he shouldn't have buckled under NBC inviting him on, because that was a big giant B slap. If he would have stuck with it, I think he actually would have gained even more following. More of a following. I'm not here to dissect or do an autopsy on the Yang campaign, because I have nothing but respect for what the guy did, and I think he's amazing. But I don't think it was racism. That's at the bottom of the list.
I think he even said he was kind of joking. Like, yes, I don't think it was really that. But no, seriously, what do you think of the point though? Because I guess kind of buried the lead, but this is pretty interesting. So I'm showing you guys the reason why I read the case for repealing this measure first. Is because here's what the measure actually is, right? All it would do is remove stuff. It's not going to add anything. It's just going to remove stuff, right? And it has here what it would remove. And it would remove the state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contract. Did you hear that?
Yes.
That's just this bill removes that. It gets rid of it.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I was really confused when I heard that. I'm like, I can't see any reason for that. And then I started thinking, like, there is one reason I could think for it, actually.
But if you really does that not sound like a civil rights victory from 1965? What you just read? Does that not sound
It was one in 96.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just saying what they put in 1996 sound like what they were begging for in the mid-60s.
It was.
And then now they're taking it out.
But they say that.
That's how psycho progressivism has become.
Okay, but I'm trying to get this one point across to you this whole time.
Okay.
They are explaining to you in this article. It's the reason why I read the thing in its whole damn entirety. I want to get this point across.
Yeah.
You could say these people are psycho, but they're not just psycho. They've got to this point by logic. And they mention it in the last paragraph. They say this. They say that public universities' foremost duty is to educate the communities they serve in distorted race populations belie that aim. So they need to make sure the students' race populations conform. The only way to do that is through literal discrimination. And they even mention that they say that Today, ACA 5 is unanimous support from the UC Regents and voters. UC Regents, and voters deserve a chance to repeal a race-blind system that was tried and has failed.
But that's so bad. Because what if there's a race that doesn't want to go to college as much? Maybe wants to go to a trade school.
I'm trying to explain one thing to you.
Okay.
The argument for doing this isn't just they're stupid psycho-progressives. They're trying to say this to you. We've tried the 1960s style of civil rights. We're done with it. It failed. It didn't get us the results we want.
Yeah, so they're going to central planning.
Exactly. But you can call them... But I'm saying is, if people don't confront that that's the point they're making, and you just dance around and say, well, that's dumb to me, they'll just keep doing it. This got passed, dude. I think it's going to the state senate, and then it's done. That's the law. In November, the state's allowed to discriminate based on sex, race, and everything.
Yep.
I wonder, will that conflict with the Supreme Court ruling that just said you're not allowed to discriminate based on... Think about that. The Supreme Court is so far behind progressive California that the Supreme Court is a progressive ruling saying you can no longer discriminate based on gender identity. But I think California just fought like hell to make sure they can discriminate based on gender identity, to make sure that they have the right proportion of each gender identity in schools. Because according to them, their case is this. There is problems in America that have led to unequal opportunities, or even if you just let people apply and everyone gets in on equal level, equal credentials, like everyone has the same bar to cross, that's not good enough. We have to selectively lower and raise the bar. You can't be selectively lowering and raising the bar without admitting you're literally discriminating against people. That's the only way to do it. And they're now saying, yes, we agree. We must discriminate against certain groups. They even detail in here they're going to split the Asians up so they can discriminate against the rich Asians against the poor Asians. But that's what you have to contend with. Just saying they're crazy psycho, okay, I get it. But that's the case they're making. What's the argument against that case? I would argue, how do you argue against someone saying, I wanted X to happen and we got Y? And just say, well, I enjoy X.
Maybe that's you realize that it is not your responsibility. It is not your responsibility. People have free choice. That you will never be able to control the admissions to every single college to be a perfect cross-section of the ever-changing demography of the state of California, the single largest influx and outflux state in the union.
You can if you can.
That's
if you're
literally
allowed to
like saying. That's literally like saying, even if you were allowed to discriminate 110%, that's you being so wildly arrogant, saying our big, slow, behemoth bureaucracy is going to keep up with a hurricane. We're going to keep up with a hurricane. This butter churning melting top. Yeah, we're going to keep up with it and make sure that it's that any given year. And by the way, what do? What if you accept a guy to college in 2020? And there's 5% of California is black, 12% is Hispanic, 20% is white or whatever.
Your part of Asia gets too rich, they make you reapply.
No, and then there's a massive influx. Let's just say there's civil war in Laos. And then all of a sudden, California accepts 50,000 new Laotians in Alhambra. And now UCLA has to up that percentage, 2%. Oh, we got too many black guys now. You know what? Now it's got to go down to 4. That means 1 out of every 5 black students we have, adios, you got to go. We got to make room for the Laotians. Like, what? Is that really what you're going to be doing?
Yes, that's what they're saying.
My gosh.
It's not about the colors to them. They're not that racist. They're only kind of racist. They only believe in racial discrimination. By reading their case, not trying to get into someone's brains, but reading this op-ed, it sounds like they say racial discrimination is pretty much okay. You just have to do it right, and it has to be controlled by the state. Because if you do it wrong, if you just try to let society racially discriminate on its own, it's not going to be correct because then too many Asians get ahead because they study too much or something. So you have to make sure we're allowed to discriminate against them. And legitimately, I mean, they basically...
Did you just say the Asians studied or something? That's funny.
Well, I'm saying, maybe
they actually made it in on merit. What do you know?
Maybe I'm crazy. I don't think Asians are born smarter. I think that the people who get into school probably just study or something. I don't know. Maybe you just work hard to get to school. Maybe I'm crazy. But they're basically saying we've tried the system where we just let people go in on their own merits, and it didn't give us the results we wanted. So now we're going to go back to selective discrimination and state-based hiring. We're going to go back to it because we need to do that just in a different way now.
Okay, so Nathan Butcher has a super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Nathan Butcher. He says, these people, I love the term, these people. But these people think there are 64 genders. Can't wait to see them create this impossible equity utopia. That's true. If we have proven anything in the past 3 weeks, it's that all of the slippery slope arguments and the where does it end arguments of every policy that's been enacted in the past 10 years that has now resulted in the violence and the chaos and the mayhem that we are living in right now, all of those where does it end arguments are coming to fruition now. And here's a where does it end argument. The same people that think there's right now they're saying 13 in California, New York, it's 27. But the same people that say there are 13 to 27 different genders completely in 100% disagreement with every modern scientific analysis of the human genome. Okay. But the same people that are saying there's 13 to 27 different genders are saying that we now have to centrally plan and coordinate all admissions and public service hiring according to an exact cross-sectional analysis of the country. What happens when the Ricky Martin effect kicks in? I've spoken about the Ricky Martin effect many times, but in the late 90s, LA Unified School District experienced a 10%, 12%, I don't remember the exact percentage, but a very large uptick in the amount of, quote, Hispanic American students. And they went into the numbers and they tried to analyze, like, where did this influx come from? Like, there wasn't a massive migration that was above normal. Like, what happened here? And what they really found out was so many students that usually just check the box as white because maybe they're half white, half Hispanic, or maybe they're just like Hispanic, but they always check the box white because they were born here and they didn't view themselves as a POC or whatever the terminologies are nowadays. They found out that so many kids that traditionally didn't identify as Hispanic identified as Hispanic because that Hispanic was cool then, because Ricky Martin was making all these top one on the Billboard charts hits. And it was like, yeah, rock on, let's do this. So are you telling me now that the UC system, when the Ricky Martin effect kicks in next time, when Antonio Banderas makes a sick movie, or when J-Lo does some breakout tour and blows the doors off of, the Billboard top 40 charts again?
Still being born in Latin America, but.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, are we all of a sudden going to have to, kick out all of the Taiwanese, kick out 20% of the white students, and if you're a blend, I don't even know if you're a mulatto, if you're shall we say half Asian and half Mexican. Do we kick out half a student? Like, what are you supposed to do?
Do you know what the academic and the politician says?
What?
I can think and legislate my way out of that. The academic can think his way out of it because he's super smart.
Meanwhile, you're screwing a bunch of people's lives up.
And the politician can legislate their way out of it because she's super smart.
Okay.
It's dumb arrogance, I agree, but they're just going to say, nah, it's cool, don't worry. Yeah, when the numbers change, we'll be on top of it. We'll change admissions. We'll keep it fair. Because not only numbers. That's the other thing I wanted. It's population was something. Well, it's not even population. If they feel that there's certain groups that are underrepresented, they'll just hold down other groups to make sure they can pull them up because they don't care who they're holding down. Like I said, only people I hate more than politicians are academics because they think themselves into nonsense like that. Like, not using race as a defining characteristic in hiring actually sucks because then we can't tell people not to hire certain races and to hire other ones. So we need to go back to that. We just got to write a 3,000 word think piece where we contradict ourselves every sentence and confuse people and get it out the door and say people are being oppressed.
So Shane Olmstead says, I don't see perfect equality happening with a constantly changing biosphere. Shane Olmstead, you just did a much better job of articulating my thoughts in one sentence, what took me 15 sentences to say. But yes, I don't see perfect equality happening with a constantly changing biosphere. And by the way, perfect equality is not what we want. What if amongst Latinos, for example, many of the parents get smart, in my opinion, and say, you know what? Dude, college son, mi hijo, no vale la pena. No ponga sobre sus hombros esa deuda. Don't put yourself into that much debt. Go to a trade school. Go with your tío Marcos. He's making bank with the metal carpenters union. Learn that. Hey, come join the family business. We dig and plaster pools. One of the most wealthy people I know on earth has this awesome pool building company here in Southern California, and they're all millionaires, every generation of that family, because it's been in the family business for 30 years now and they're killing it, right? So what if all of a sudden, culturally, the Latinos get super wise and say, you know what? we're not pushing the college thing on our kids. We don't view it as valuable. We view it a valuable staying in the family businesses. And there's a massive culture shift in the Latino community. And they're not applying. What are the colleges supposed to do then?
Just admit anyone that applies, because they don't care about the whole scenario you just brought up. According to them, the numbers have to reflect something. And what I'm telling you is you can make all these great points, but I just read you their argument. It's not based on reality. It's based on them saying, we don't care if we literally have to say Asians need not apply. We're going to get the numbers we want, goddammit. That's what they're saying, dude. I don't know how you argue against that.
Can we go back to just saying we don't hire Irish? We don't accept Irish in this school. We got too many Irish.
They're fighting for the right to do just that. Because they realize we're going to have to do that if we're going to get the numbers we want.
Really, progressives in the chat, I got to know. Any of you guys that call yourselves progressives, how does the most progressive state, California, and this make any sense to any of your progressive values of equality? Like how does this at all make sense? There's no way this makes sense.
Well, one second. You say that this has been a consistent contention. I pulled up an article here. This is from 1996, originally posted in CNN, referencing that in 96, when this was going into effect, a federal judge actually temporarily blocked Prop 209, citing essentially the same reason, saying that if you take away the state's ability to racially discriminate with laws, it can't discriminate in kind of surgical, precise ways to create certain results.
But should it be in the first place?
They mention here that I don't think so.
Exactly.
But the contention, he says that I just had the quote pulled up. Here we go. So at a hearing earlier this week, attorneys told Henderson that measures would turn the glass ceiling for minorities and women into an iron cage. They argue it violates the U.S. Constitution's Equal Protection Clause by blocking legislation needed to protect racial minorities and women from discrimination. So they said, we need laws that you could argue are discriminatory in order to make sure that everybody gets what we think they deserve. Ultimately, it comes to that. If the state's deciding what they think you should or shouldn't have, the logical end is this. We have to be racist again as a government to make sure everyone gets what we think they should or shouldn't
have. Don't you think that's hilarious? That the big argument from Republicans and conservatives have been, wait a second, Republicans were the party of abolition. Democrats were the party of racism. The ones filibustering the civil rights bill. The ones that, you joke with me saying, but Democrats are the real racists. You know what I'm saying? And I've always said, wait, progressives, this is going at a bad spot. It's just going to yield racism. But progressives are the real racists. And now literally the same party that filibustered the 1964 Civil Rights Bill is now trying to get rid of the only racial equality bill, statute that has been in the California State Senate since the red wave of 1996. This is just insanity to me. Like, I don't know anybody that's registered as Democrat at this point. I just think is 100%. Literally, it's in the platform now. It's officially in the platform now that we need racial discrimination. This is like, it's officially a racist party at this point.
But but they have a reason for it. They say they only call it racist, but they just say the state the state has to discriminate because if the state doesn't have to, but the state needs to be able to discriminate to get their goals. Which I would argue, if the state has to discriminate to get your goals, maybe reconsider your goals, or at least how we get there. Does the state have to discriminate? Do we have to separate Asians so you can make sure you're really mean to the Koreans, but you give some of the other Asians a pass? Like, do we really have to do that? They're arguing, yeah. It's hilarious. Think about this. If I told you 2 years ago that they would be triumphantly spiking the football, that they got the state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. Whoa, we're getting rid of it. The state now shall be able to, if it chooses, discriminate against individuals or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, etc. Crazy, but that's the point. I was trying to find, because it's one thing to say that's crazy. Why would they do it? They must be insane. But they're basically just coming out into your point saying it. Well, we tried it the old way. It didn't work. We're trying it a new way now.
Dude, I don't even know what to say. At this point, I don't know what to say. Super chats. Tell me what I'm supposed to say. Sorry, not super chats. Chat. tell me what to say. But hey, if you want a super chat, never say no to that.
Yeah, what do you say about that, right?
I
don't know.
Honestly, it's sick. And the liberal in me really, it breaks my heart. I all the time tell people, I'm like, I'm a 1990s liberal Democrat. Like, I am a 1990s liberal Democrat. That's what I am. I'm the guy that loves diversity. I love living in diverse neighborhoods. I think it's cool. I speak Spanish, for heaven's sakes. I lived in South America. I think it's rad. Okay. I'm not some guy that's like, I just want to live in a neighborhood with people that look like me. No, that's not me. I actually love the diversity. I welcome. I think it's fun. Okay. I love the idea of, I'm fine with giving more, and I'll take the shirt off my back if it'll help you out, and I really think it's going to work. You know, like I don't, I love the idea of everybody having equal opportunity, not equality of outcome, equality of opportunity. And I will advocate for principles, for movements, and for government programs that help assist in equality of opportunity. I will spend an exorbitant amount of time and my own resources in order to do that. But now the 1990s liberal Democrat point of view is if they weren't so toothless and weak, Republican. Except for Republicans are toothless and weak corporatists now too.
But I don't think Republicans are arguing against things like Prop 209.
Well, it's just there's no more Republicans in California.
Well, so you think Republicans are arguing against? You think Republicans want the state to discriminate?
We have a supermajority in our state assembly that is so big, a supermajority of Democrats, that Republicans don't even have to show up. Even if they did show up, they could do nothing but collect their per diem and then make a protest statement and then walk away.
I'm saying, are you saying if Republicans were in power, they wouldn't have had?
No, this wouldn't have happened because this legislation got on the books because of the red wave of the late 90s.
That's my point, yeah.
It was the last gasp of republicanism in California when a bunch of Republicans won and the supermajority was defeated. And in the state assembly, there was actually a 50-50 split of Democrats and Republicans. And ironically, it was the Republicans that brought forth and passed this anti-racism measure in California. And then now the Democrats are trying to get rid of it.
Well, I mean, it was also, like I said, a federal judge did block it because it was also ending affirmative action in California, which they just argued because you have to discriminate to do it. Anyway, $10 super chat from Jeremy. Thank you very much. Said this is total bull. Dems trying to take over the black ADOS civil rights agenda as a way to quell us. Done by using the LGBT and black feminist research, BLM. They are making this big to muddy the water. Oh, yeah. 100%, man. I agree. I've said as soon as the banks got together and dropped $1 billion on like a BLM and activist
that's when
groups,
you knew it was over.
You know how rich people get this? This is what they do. This is what not big rich, but like the rich corporations, the political donors. That's it. The donors. They loved Amy, right? The activists that they can't just give jobs. We're going to hire you to work at this nonprofit where basically you sit in that desk and you do nothing. And we pay you six figures and it's a good job, but you don't do anything. You're not an activist anymore. You work at the nonprofit. They do that, or they'll just throw a bag of money into a group of people and say, fight over it. We're not going to oversee. You know, they'll ask, well, who'd you give this money to? We gave it to the movement. Well, who is that? It's up to you guys to decide, because they'll know. It doesn't matter what your movement's for, man. If that much money shows up, people will start fighting over it. So I wouldn't be surprised if stuff like that start. Because as soon as I saw that, I'm like, dude, if they just start parachuting big bags of money into the middle of an organization, they're trying to tear you apart. Man. They're trying to get you guys to turn on each other. That's why they would do that. And yeah, that's how they do it. They do stuff like that. They make these big, like you said, they make these big, these big show ad campaigns to help them sell them more products. I mean, they really don't care. And then eventually, once they get everything crazy and chaotic, they're able to discredit whatever they want.
Yeah.
The activists who actually in the streets getting a little bit too much work done, they work for the government either directly or indirectly by working at a nonprofit that's funded largely by the government.
Yeah.
And then once they've got you on their payroll, you're kind of not their problem anymore because you work for them. You know, you do what I say. I give you your health care. And and they're probably doing it now. I would not be surprised. Start reading those press releases. So-and-so, former Black Lives Matter activist, snatched up by such and such organization to work in such and such role. Yeah, they bottom out. They're bribed off the streets. They're bribed away from the protests. They're bribed away from being an activist. That's how they do it. Smart, and it works.
It's people. These people.
Smart.
Smart, but just so antithetical to anything American values. Just so antithetical.
It's how they control people, but it's smart. It's not good. I think it's bad.
So how do we fight it, Cody? How do we fight it?
Hey, resist a bag of money. Anyone ever able to do that? No. So I don't know what you do. And it's tough. What are you going to say? We're going to give you a job that pays 6 figures to do basically nothing but work at a nonprofit that's stated goal is exactly what you advocate for. Turn it down, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell you what, it's a little bit different. There's a famous interview of a hardcore pro wrestler who decided to stay true to his heart and stay wrestling in the truly hardcore stuff.
Yeah.
Away from the big stuff. And there's an interview of him crying, saying, I should have took the money.
Yeah, I should have took the money. Hey, but look at this. Michael Guzman brings up a good point. He says, bro, I was shook. Bank of America dropped $1 billion. Was it $1 billion that they dropped?
Yeah. Well, I believe it was officially, I'll pull it up, like pledged $1 billion of donations to organizations. Like it wasn't like just here's your $1 billion wild transfer, but we will be donating a sum of money that equals
and
to $1
see,
billion.
My frustration with that is Bank of America. No, see, this is them just paying off their ability to screw the black community. Because let me tell you, a huge problem with the black community and accruing wealth is access to capital. And why don't we talk to Bank of America about their predatory loans and introductory credit card rates?
Yeah, well, here's the official stuff. They said
they're making more than that $1 billion, okay, off of the black community and oppressive, in my opinion, credit rates. It's a cheaper deal just to say, oh, but we gave $1 billion to Black Lives Matter. You know what? Keep your $1 billion and just lower that 27% interest rate down to 13%, and let's see what happens.
Well, no, because if they give you the $1 billion and change nothing, they'll be a net positive of plus $2 billion. If they change the way the things they do and don't give you the $1 billion, they'll be like a net negative. They make money.
I know.
The
dude,
bean counters count, and they say, hey, you know what's cheaper? Bribe them with it. And they mentioned this. Bank of America's pledged $1 billion donation over 4 years to invest in communities of color and minority-owned businesses. That was the official. I just wanted to get to the official of it.
All right. I just hope nobody keeps falling for this garbage, man. I can't stand these people anymore.
But it's not even a matter of falling. It's just that's like, dude, it's crazy how just money makes problems go away. That's one way the government uses money to make problems go away. They know there's some people that are out there in the streets they're not going to be able to bribe, but they're not enough to get things going on their own. They know a lot of those people eventually are just going to go home and get back to the regular life. It always happens. There's a few that they're going to have to deal with. You could try arresting them or whatever, but it's honestly just cheaper to give them a job. Because then not only are they not your problem, they work for you. Like you have power over them. You can fire them. You can take their health care away. It's a win-win.
Yeah. So Pumpkin Spice Latte says third-party guarantees Trump wins.
Oh, want to get to that?
Philly Yang Girl says, I was very anti-third party until last night. There's a lot of talk of third parties, Cody.
Well, do you want to get into the thing?
Yeah, let's hit it.
Okay, so I don't know if Spotify
Are we getting into the third-party thing, or are we getting into the Bank of America billions thing?
Oh, the third-party thing. There's not too much more to the Bank of America thing. Just they've pledged $1 billion over 4 years to communities in general. Black communities in general, businesses. It's not like there's like, I don't think it's itemized like, well, this much. It's just kind of we'll be donating. But
okay.
After an appearance by, I believe it was Brett Weinstein on Joe Rogan, he referenced something pretty interesting. He said that America needs a third party. Donald Trump and I believe he made the case that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are basically just both incapable and don't exhibit the type of leadership the country needs right now.
Okay.
And he referenced a ticket that would.
Okay.
That was. And I'm gonna pull.
Who was this to reference that ticket?
One of the Weinstein brothers.
It was Brett Weinstein on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Whoever
right?
was on today.
Okay. See, I'm still going for the Dwayne, the Rock Johnson and Jocko Willenick.
However, he mentioned two names: Andrew Yang and Admiral William McRaven. So 2 different Change.org petitions have sprouted up to support this ticket of William H. McRaven and Andrew Yang. I believe William McRaven led the Osama raid.
Interesting.
And also, he's the guy that Jordan Peterson stole the clean your room thing from, I think. I'm just in jest, but he's the admiral with the famous like.
No, I know he's the one that says make your bed in the morning.
Yeah, but
exactly.
I was listening to him. Like, it's functionally the same case Jordan Peterson makes. Like, oh, it's just make sure you control your own little thing first.
Now here's a question: are they just glorifying him because he's a never Trumper? Is he a never Trumper or what? Because it seems to be that they always glorify these never Trumper dudes.
I believe he's definitely a Trump critical Republican.
Well, I mean, it's a fine if I'm a Trump critical Republican if he does something that's worth criticism.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, there's people that are just critical.
And then there's some that just like hate the guy and they can't get it off his chest.
I think he's just been critical of the president on multiple occasions. I haven't, to be frank, I looked at a few things. One thing I thought that'd be fun to run through really quickly. He recently gave a commencement speech at MIT.
Okay.
Go through the last few paragraphs here just to give you a little idea. First of all, I'll show you. He gave a speech, dude. I mean, this thing has got a nice length to it. But I think the end of it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
He says...
I've seen it. It's the one where he says, make your bed.
No, this is a commencement speech from a few days ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Late May. He said, finally, to save the world, you must have compassion. You must ache for the poor and disenfranchised. You must fear for the vulnerable. You must weep for the ill and infirm. You must pray for those who are without hope. You must be kind to less fortunate. For what hero gives so much of themselves without caring for those they are trying to save? As we sign off from this visual commencement, I want you to promise me one thing. Promise me this will be the last class to miss a commencement because of a pandemic, the last class to miss a commencement because of war, the last class to miss a commencement because of climate change, unrest, tyranny, extremism, active shooters, intolerance, and apathy. Batman and Superman are not coming to save the world. It will be up to you. But never, never in my life have I been so confident that the fate of the world is in good hands. Go forth and be the heroes we need you to be. Thank you and congratulations.
Oh, that's a great speech.
I think you could tailor that into a campaign speech pretty quickly. Remove
in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Instead of saying, Americans make this the last election we have to do by mail. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I
like that.
We'll have to do more to look more into. I haven't looked that much into him. Apparently, someone said he's a war criminal. Like, yeah, he worked for the Great Satan. He's obviously a war criminal. But that aside, that's a given.
It's not the Great Satan. I disagree with you, my man.
Dude, the part of our country that bombs people for no reason, for weird, not for no reason.
No, it is the great tool.
CIA
and
reasons.
I think Obama's cowardice in extrajudicial killings, cowardice was the Great Satan, and the tool was just sharp.
No, the Great Satan was what I believe Bin Laden said about America. Or was it Al Qaeda said
I'm not going to agree with Al Qaeda.
I don't know, I mean,
they are cowards and psychos.
What's that one tweet? I guess you don't have to give it to ISIS. But no, I mean, my larger point, though, is that it is worth noting we do have unelected people in our government. Nobody asked these people to be where they are, making decisions to further the goals of various agencies, and that means killing people in various parts of the country for no other real reason. And we do it because that's how the country functions. This is what it is, man.
Yeah. So will this petition gain any steam, bro?
I don't know about the petition. I want to highlight one last thing, though. And this is very interesting to me. And a big shout out to this guy.
Hit it.
So an individual by the name of Nevada enrolled agent. In June 30th, 2019, Andrew Yang asked who he should have as a guest on his podcast when he makes one finally. And this individual responded, Admiral William H. McRaven.
Wow.
Head of the curve over there. Shout out to this guy.
Yeah, dude.
He was on this June 30th of 2019.
Nevada enrolled
almost an entire year ago. Isn't that interesting?
So this guy's working for the IRS. That's what an enrolled agent is. That's a certification. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, chap, but an enrolled agent means that you've passed basic certifications in order to be able to process tax returns and do basic tax related activities. It's not a CPA exactly, but it's an enrolled agent, which means that you can do work on behalf of the Fed for taxation. Like my tax guy is an enrolled agent.
Riveting, man.
What, dog? I'm just adding some context, man.
Like I said, riveting. I never thought so much about tax classifications. But people brought up in chat. I do want to get to the other thing is that yes, the reason why he mentioned these two candidates, it's hard to kind of explain everything about who this William McRaven is. But the central point from Weinstein in the interview, which is very interesting, is basically he said that essentially you need patriotic leaders from both the center of the left and the right. I believe Weinstein said something interesting. He's like, I will vote for a truly patriotic leader. I don't even care at this point what party they're from anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Just someone I could believe in. And I think that was obviously I don't think Andrew Yang and Admiral William McRaven are going to team to run for president, right? But the point he made there, I did think was fascinating. I think a lot of Americans are there. Like, I don't care if it's a Democrat, Republican, or the Doritos party. If there was a person who ran people really believed in, I think they'd win.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people out there like why. I'd feel the same way. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, no, it's true. Remember
if
how
you look at like Trump and Biden, it's like,
Well, do you remember how I said earlier that a big frustration, Crystal Ball shares this frustration with me, so does Sagar and Jetty. So they said that there's no one really of institutional clout that we can trust that can step in and say, okay, calm this nonsense. Do you think this McRaven guy has enough clout? See, the U.S. military still has high trust and approval numbers compared to the media, compared to Congress at large, compared to governorships.
Honestly, I don't know too much about him in particular, but dude, just the idea of, like, regardless of the party they're from, even if they were kind of like, like Andrew Yang is like a Democrat, right? But I wouldn't say he necessarily comes from the perspective of regular Democrats, right? Like, do you agree that you think there'd be people who would just say Democrat, Republican, I don't even care anymore, if that guy or girl ran, that people are like, I believe in them, they love this country, I want what they want. Do you think I think they'd win no matter what.
I think the middle third is that way. I think there's a middle third that's that way. But right now, Republicans are feeling that Democrats are an existential threat to their cultural lifestyle. And leftists that have been drinking the media Kool-Aid think that the right is an existential threat and is genocidal fascism and racism personified.
Well, they don't actually believe that.
So, well,
if I legitimately believed my neighbors were
did you watch The View yesterday?
I hear things people say, but their actions tell you what they believe. If they actually thought literally Hitler was around them, they'd probably be killing people, because that's what you should do. They wouldn't just be sitting around like, well,
it's like all these activists.
I vaguely disapprove of literal Nazis taking over my country. It's like, I'm sure you believe that literal Nazis taking over your
that's
country.
also why I said the guy that was organizing the local protest that works on our school board, Dave Barlavi, organizing protests against, the great white violent patriarchy.
Oh yeah, tell me more about this fascinating guy.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's stupid that he would say that, though, because honestly, if you really, really thought there was this genocidal patriarchy, okay, that hated you as a Jew, or hated you as a Democrat, or hated you just because you're you wouldn't leave your house. You'd be sitting at the front door with a gun.
Yeah. Who was your least favorite teacher in 8th grade? We should just shit on them too.
What? I just named a name because it was relevant to our area, and
you just brought up some guy to have at him, I guess, but
no, not to have at him, to illustrate a principle. Okay, so Sly Cactus says dipping in the media Kool-Aid without knowing what the flavor is. Okay, interesting. And Nathan Butcher says Yang has actual solution. Oh, they're talking Yang still. Yeah, that'd be an interesting ticket, and I'd be curious to see how thirsty the American public is for an alternative. I would like to see, how many signatures has that petition gotten, Cody, to draft those two?
Well, unfortunately, there's 2, so I'll combine the 2 to tell you.
Oh, there's 2 of them. Okay, so we'll combine the 2.
I believe less than like 400 people. It's like not a big deal. I was mostly just bringing them.
Is it one of those things that's going to pick up steam overnight? When we re-click refresh, it'll have 20,000 signatures in the morning, or what?
No, I doubt it. No.
You doubt it? Dang it!
But again, the reason why I brought it up. The names that Weinstein brought up are obviously interesting because we followed Andrew Yang for so long and are interested in Andrew Yang. But I wanted to bring up just the idea, the concept more of, like I said, like it doesn't, party aside, and I know you think that people are so dug into their party ways. I think it's just people say because that's on TV. I think like realistically people are looking for another option. I think a lot of people would see somebody running.
The middle third in the apolitical class.
Not even the middle third. It's the people who voted for Obama and then voted for Trump. Those people that won Trump the election, that were winning Obama's election.
Which are the independents.
Yeah, but I mean like the voters that actually swing elections, right? The people you can win over. Yeah. The people that are available. I think a lot of them would. I think there was people, you could argue and disagree, tell them that. They already voted 4 years ago. I don't think they care anymore. There was people in 2016 who probably felt something like that about Donald Trump, where they're like, I voted for Democrats before, but I mean, like, just, I believe in that guy as a leader. He's, over the last 4 years, I think he's found a way to make everybody hate him and make nobody like him. Even his own supporters now just all hate him. So it didn't go well for him. But I think that those people are still out there. They're still looking.
Okay.
That's why Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson maybe could be president.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm all in on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Imagine if he were toe-to-toe with Kim Jong-un and we could just be putting that gif up of "Shut up, P." Shut up, B. Like, that would be just awesome. His promos as president would be sick. Easyland YT has a request for you, Cody. Mm-hmm. There's been multiple requests in the chat to, quote, bring back the glasses Cody Kent. So you're Cody the Oracle and Cody Kent. Where's the blue blocker glasses, bro?
Oh, they're right here.
Are they gone?
No, they're right here. I don't always wear them. If I have a headache, I'll put them on. Man, they're right here. I still have them.
Dude, you look erudite, man. You look legit erudite. You know what I'm saying? If I got a chance to cast in a movie, do you remember the movie National Treasure? There was, gosh, I can't remember the name of the actor, but it was the actor that was always the last one to remember something because he didn't understand the historical context. And finally, when something came up with daylight savings times, he said, oh, wait a second. No, daylight savings time didn't happen until the Eisenhower administration. They're like, oh, yeah, you're right. And he's like, so this is how you guys feel like all the time? If I needed to cast a really intelligent yet devilishly handsome dude behind a laptop, I would cast you in those glasses, Cody.
You're too kind.
So Dustin says, The Rock and Jesse Ventura wrestler ticket. Dude, Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Jesse Ventura. There'd be some interesting clout there. I would like Jocko Willenick more than Jesse Ventura, though. But I think Jesse Ventura would make an epic Speaker of the House because to be the Speaker of the House, you just have to be voted on by the House. You don't actually have to be a member of the House. So I think a Dwayne The Rock Johnson for president with Jocko Willenick as VP and with Jesse Ventura as the Speaker of the House would be the best ticket of my adult lifetime. Do you agree with me or disagree with me?
I disagree, but...
Wait, why?
You know what? Yeah, because you know why I disagree? Because I think just policy-wise, I'd rather have Patrick Starr as the Speaker of the House, and then maybe
Patrick Starr.
Maybe we could have maybe we could get I don't know, maybe Danny DeVito could be a VP, but I think
but he couldn't get up onto the
too cartoony
onto the podium. No, not too cartoony. I could see Jocko Willenick just in a suit, like, "Good morning, America. You know what we're gonna do today? Today we're gonna crush it. We're going to get up. We're going to make our beds. We're going to go out there and be a team. GDP is down 10%. We need a little bit more performance from you guys in the manufacturing sector. All you guys for Apple out there, great job on the iPhone." You don't think that would be a sick daily news brief?
Honestly, I'd be embarrassed to be an American if that's what was going on. I'd be like, wow, I love this. This is awesome.
Okay, I think that would be epic, man. I don't know. Actually, I think Jocko Willenick would have legit leadership qualities, man.
Randy Orton is Secretary of Defense.
Okay.
The Viper. That's a good idea. Randy Orton is Secretary.
Wait, who's Randy Orton, Cody?
Who's Randy? Who's Randy the Randy the Legend Killer Orton? Randy the Viper Orton?
No.
Son of Cowboy Bob Orton?
Can you bring it up? I don't know who he is.
See, he's Randy Orton. I don't know how to describe besides that. I don't know how to describe him. I don't know how to describe him else besides the Legend Killer and the Viper and the son of Cowboy Bob Orton.
Jeez. Okay. Dang it. I'm missing out.
He's a wrestler. What else do you want to say?
Okay, I'm going to look this guy up. Hold on.
He was born in
Apple T.
His great grandfather. I don't know. He's a wrestler.
Randy Orton. Oh, dude, that guy is yoked. Man, that guy's like all neck. He is ripped. I don't remember this cat. What was he famous for, Cody?
Wrestling. He was the Legend Killer. He was famous for being the Legend Killer.
Man, but
he was famous for being a member of Evolution until Triple H turned on him because he beat Chris Benoit for the. I don't know how to describe him. He was a wrestler. He was on TV.
Dude, Randy Orton is. See, sometimes these guys are caricatures of wrestlers. Like, they're so ripped that, it's just like, this is the dude that you see at the gym that you're not actually afraid of.
Now I have to put a Randy Orton picture on.
This Randy Orton guy actually looks like the bruiser from a 007 movie mixed with the Russian mafioso bouncer at the club mixed with a protein pack commercial.
Okay, you're overselling him. He's not that big. But.
Dude, he is toned, man. Oh, this is crazy. You got to find a good picture to throw up there, dude.
You want to know something funny? I was watching a YouTube video, and it was a guy who was talking about being a pro wrestler, and he's talking about part of being a pro wrestler. You had to get in really good shape. And so the funny thing is, you think when you get like in really good wrestler shape, like all the girls will be after you. It's like the only people that care when you're in great shape is dudes. Those are the only people that are coming up like, wow, great body, man. Like no one else cares. Only dudes care when a guy's got a great body. I thought was funny. To your point, right? Right there, you just go through like, wow, this guy's super.
He gets all these compliments from dudes. That's actually really fun.
Not him in particular, but just in general, someone made that point that he's like, yeah, when I started getting in really good shape to start wrestling, you figured all the girls that come up to you. He's like, nah, it's always guys that are on social media like, oh,
nah, girls like all the wafy, like. Remember when I was a little bit confused when they started crushing on Orlando Bloom. They like all the wafy, like Orlando Bloomy guys now, and like I sip my cup and I'm sensitive, like that. Oh, talk to your parents about Obamacare picture
now.
boy.
Yeah, that's not a trope that's existed to I believe the Greeks spoke of this. Man, that's a new thing. That's a new thing.
What would the Greeks speak about? Liking wafy little wimpy boys?
There's always the pretty boy stereotype. There's probably pretty boy cavemen, dude.
No, but pretty boy I think always meant attractive boy. Like you can be ripped and be a pretty boy at the same time, kind of like Gaston. In
I think the largest thing is this. The more succinct thing is this: is that males and females have different muscles and they grow them differently. So men look at guys' muscles and go, "Oh, I know what it's like to try to do that," so they appreciate it differently. Women are like, "I don't care." They're not like, "Oh, wow, look at the guy's deltoids." Like I don't think that's how like men or women really dissect each other. You know what I mean? It's just
so. Black Dog
was literally
asks,
just a silly anecdote. Next time.
Black Dog asks, "Is this a political show?" Yes, 110%. It's a political show, and if you want to understand politics, you got to understand world wrestling.
QC in the Rock 2020.
That's funny.
Well, I mean, it's there.
Shane,
I'll say it again. Donald Trump, WWE Hall of Famer. I believe, oh my God, he technically won a match at WrestleMania. He didn't wrestle. He had, I believe, Umaga wrestle for him. And we had Bobby Lashley wrestle for him. I believe, who defeated Umaga. So technically, but there is something to it. I'll say it every stream I have to get it in. Wrestling and politics are very closely linked.
Yeah, so my favorite wrestler is Stacy Keibler. That's funny. Was she a wrestler? She was a model, right?
No, I mean, I think she was part of like the women's wrestling at the time, which is a lot more. I was going to say stripped down, which is probably no pun intended. It was a lot smaller rosters, a lot less few competitors. It wasn't as competitive as today.
Okay, interesting. Wow. Okay. So, oh no, there it is. Yeah, I guess she was a wrestler. That's crazy, man. That's actually kind of cool, dude. I would still be freaked out at injury, bro. I look at what those guys pulled off, and I have actually gained respect for wrestling with you on this show. I used to kind of brush it off as that dumb redneck thing, you know, but after having seen all the performance artistry that goes into it and some of these physical feats of strength that have been accomplished by these men, I have a new respect, man. I have an absolute new respect. And so, yeah, go Stacy Keibler. That's a hardcore job, man.
Well, it's this really goofy industry because, for example, I guess just a quick aside, what I'm trying to say when I say politics and wrestling, it's very similar in the idea that there's this, we all know that when a politician goes up to the podium to say something, they literally can't go up there and tell you exactly what is going on and all this stuff, whether it be classified. For example, it happened recently in Atlanta when a bunch of police were walking off when they weren't there, and the Atlanta's like, oh, everything's fine. We've had an unusually high number of officers call out sick, but you know that they have to BS and lie to you, right? And then behind the scenes, they'll kind of relay to you what's actually going on. And I think there's a lot of parallels to that in wrestling. Like I said with John Bolton, who just got fired. Dude, when wrestlers get fired by the big companies, they go on the interview scene to start telling everyone the dirt of what it was like. Yeah, it's like in politics, you get fired, you go on the interview scene, you sell your book, giving up all the dirt because there's all these things that kind of go on behind the scenes you have to just pretend aren't real and aren't happening. I think it's very interesting.
Did you get the super chat, by the way?
Let me check.
The one that said those are cool because those are Malcolm X glasses?
I did not know, but Jeremy, do you have super chat?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a couple I missed here. Jeremy's 3 super chats. Fight out by sticking together as countrymen should. Hey, I always agree with that, man. Citizens, there's whatever they want to say about like racial or gender groups. There's more citizens than government employees. That's for sure. Yeah. Jeremy, here's your first upload. ADOS, y'all are great. Thank you very much. And those are cool. Those are Malcolm X classes. I never thought of it that way, but I guess yeah.
Since our first upload.
Thank you very much, man.
Wow. That's actually pretty impressive. How can we go back and figure? Do we still have our first sub, Cody? Do you remember that when we got our first sub? I remember the day we got our first sub, dude.
I'd have to look. I honestly remember.
I was like, whoa, we got a sub. I remember that, man. That was pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, babe.
So, yeah, sweet. So, Jeremy, that's good to hear. Hashtag ADOS. Y'all are great. Yeah, is ADOS still doing anything? I remember that was like a thing. Like
yes, I believe so.
6 months ago, and then there was like all this controversy, and then
you have this thing
I
where
haven't heard from them again.
I
live in a time warp.
No, you live in a time warp. Things only exist when they're in front of you. If something could exist for 50 years, you'll discover, like, whoa, this new thing just came up. It's like I think this started way before you found out about it. So, but we're gonna start winding down. We're probably come to the end. We're gonna wind down. So if you guys have any just last questions, throw them in. We've been obviously just kind of going off the rails, talking about pro wrestling for the last little while. I do think if I had to pick one wrestler, no one asked, if I had to pick one person involved in pro wrestling, just because it's an aside, Vince McMahon's wife, Linda McMahon, has ran multiple times for office. I think she tried to go straight to Senate and lost.
Really?
Oh yeah.
But if you're not big in the wrestling world, you can't convert that over, right? Don't you have to like prove it in the rink first?
What do you mean?
Well,
Linda McMahon had one of the biggest crowd reactions in wrestling history at WrestleMania 17.
She had one of the biggest crowds?
I guess we'll wrap up on this.
Okay.
Pro wrestling in the early 2000s was just insane. And there was a storyline where billionaire Vince McMahon put his wife Linda McMahon into a coma by saying he wants to divorce her.
I remember
and
that.
then he would walk around, I think it was with Stacy Kleber, maybe it was Tori Wilson, as this like bimbo on his arm as he drugged Linda McMahon, his wife, with drugs to keep her comatose. And they would wheelchair around Linda McMahon, Vince McMahon's wife, billionaire Vince McMahon, and his wife, like 60 years old or whatever. And she would just sit around like this as they wheeled her around with this dead stare in her face. And she just wouldn't move. And they did this for, I think, a few months.
Okay.
They'd wheel her around and she wouldn't move, and Vince would like make out with girls in front of her.
Whoa.
I mean, like for real, right? And then she broke out of the trance in a wrestling ring and kicked Vince in the balls.
Wow. And that was all kayfabe, right?
Sure. I mean, no. Linda McMahon was literally being drugged. I mean, yes, it was part of the show, but that's just the hokey nonsense that went on there. Just to the point of Linda McMahon. You asked if she'd ever done anything. She did do that. She pretended to be a zombie who was basically just for like 4 or 5 months, I think, and then she got a big reaction though. So,
all right, sweet. So, anyway, yeah, guys, this was great. Today was freaking awesome. Just so you know, if you got any last super chats in the system, we're going to be shutting down here in about a minute. So get them out. If you got any last burning questions, make sure you get them out right now. Before we wind down, though, we only got 60 likes. Before you guys leave, can you do us a favor?
On. I got to get card and Tiny's file in.
What?
I'm just kidding, man.
What? Come on, dog. So make sure you smash the like button.
Or dislike.
Okay.
If you disagree with anything we said, feel free to dislike, always.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to give us a thumbs down, give us a thumbs down. If you want to give us a thumbs up, then give us a thumbs up. But yeah, let's smash one of those like buttons if you guys don't mind. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSPRadio1. Okay, and be on the lookout for at least 2 or 3 times a week. I try and make a community post where people respond in the comments what they would like to talk about that day. So make sure you keep a lookout for those community posts and follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. We're on all those platforms, yo. Got anything? Whoops, excuse me. You got anything else you want to say, Cody?
Shane Olmstead, $2 super chat. Thanks for the stream, guys. Thank you, man. Very much appreciate it.
Sweet, awesome. And don't forget to smash that like button before you guys go. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.